Andrew Yang is known as the internet's favorite presidential candidate, and if you listen to one of his many interviews he has done over the past months, you can understand why. He is a witty, thoughtful, and personable person. Despite this, he is often on the receiving end of a lot of criticism for his ideas. So today, we're going to look at 7 moments Andrew Yang was put on the hot seat and responded. Andrew Yang and MSNBC have a history together, due to the fact that MSNBC has not always shown Andrew Yang the respect he deserves, that being with the Andrew Yang media blackout situation. So, when Yang finally decided to give them a chance and appear on air with Stephanie Ruhle, it was no surprise things got tense. However, Andrew Yang handled it extremely well and kept his cool.
Then whose job is it to solve for that? I give the example of President Trump. He told people in Ohio, don't sell your houses. These plants aren't going to close. But government can't control that. When Mary Barra closes an auto plant, like her or hate her, she's doing her job. But what's happened is normal people are mad at corporate America for doing that. Is their anger misguided? Whose role is it to solve for normal people who are getting screwed?
In theory, it's our government's responsibility, but our government has been asleep at the switch. We've been worshiping the almighty dollar and progress and saying, hey, if those thousands of plant workers lose their jobs, that's just what capitalism looks like. We've had these half-hearted efforts at retraining that have been proven to be ineffective on the ground. They only have effectiveness rates of between 0 and 15%, according to independent studies. And when I've been in Michigan, Ohio, Missouri, Wisconsin, any of these places, that the aftermath of automation is very, very clear to the people who are living in these communities.
Bill Maher and Andrew Yang sat down to talk on Real Time with Bill Maher, and as soon as Yang walked out, you could tell Bill was trying to write Yang off as just another candidate with subtle, condescending jokes. However, Andrew Yang quickly took control of the situation and the crowd, and showed Bill that he's not just another candidate.
But first up, he is a 2020 Democratic presidential candidate and author of The War on Normal People, The Truth About America's Disappearing Jobs and Why Universal Basic Income is Our Future. That's all the time we have, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Andrew Yang, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Andrew. I haven't read your book, but I read the title. I think I get it all now. No. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked many of the contenders who've been on our show, 23 of them. I'm going to run. It'll be 23 and me. But
You have some votes.
23 people are running. Why you?
I'm running for president because I'm focused on solving the problem that got Donald Trump elected in the first place in 2016. He's our president because we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all the swing states that he needed to win. And my friends in technology know we're about to do the same thing to millions of retail jobs, call center jobs, fast food jobs, truck driving jobs, and on and on. We have to wake America up to the fact that it is not immigrants that are causing these problems. It's not immigrants, am I right? It's technology and the advancing economy.
You don't have to work that hard to get them to applaud.
And so we need to solve these problems for the American people, and that's how we beat Trump in 2020. That's how we move the country forward.
It should come as no surprise that MSNBC would appear multiple times on this list, but this time it came during the 5th Democratic debate, when the moderator asked Andrew Yang a tough and unexpected question that nearly got him choked up. But again, Yang composes himself and turns it into an opportunity to win the crowd and other candidates over, while also addressing real issues.
Yang, if you win the 2020 election, what would you say in your first call with Russian President Vladimir Putin?
It's a fun moment. Well, first I'd say, I'm sorry I beat your guy. Or not sorry.
Not sorry.
And second, I would say the days of meddling in American elections are over, and we will take any undermining of our democratic processes as an act of hostility and aggression. The American people would back me on this We know that they've found an underbelly and they've been clawing at it, and it's made it so that we can't even trust our own democracy. The third thing I would say is that we're going to live up to our international commitments. We're going to recommit to our partnerships and alliances, including NATO. And it was James Mattis that said that the more you invest in diplomats and diplomacy, the less you have to spend on ammunition. That has to be the path forward to help build an international consensus, not just against Russia, but also to build a coalition that will help us put pressure on China in terms of their treatment of their ethnic minorities and what's going on in Hong Kong. I want to propose a new world data organization, like a WTO for data, because right now, unfortunately, we're living in a world where data is the new oil and we don't have our arms around it. These are the ways that we'll actually get Russia to the table and make it so they have to join the international community and stop resisting appeals to the world order.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Rachel?
Andrew Yang sat down with John Harwood to talk about his campaign. When about midway through, Harwood asked Yang why he wants to do something as hard as becoming president. And instead of being subdued by the question, Yang again turns it into an opportunity to show what makes him unique.
Something that's very abnormal, running for president.
That's true.
So of all the ways you can serve, and we're serving through the Venture for America that you started, why did you pick this one? Running for president, running for a job that by most conventional measures, you're not really ready for.
Well, I spent 7 years helping train hundreds of entrepreneurs and helping to create thousands of jobs around the country with this nonprofit that I founded, Venture for America. And I started that organization because I felt like our country was heading in the wrong direction in terms of its energies and the way our economy looked. And when Donald Trump got elected in 2016, I took that as a red flag that it was getting even worse faster than I thought. And when I dug into the numbers, I was shocked to see that we'd automated away millions of manufacturing jobs in the swing states that Trump won. And that now we're closing 30% of stores and malls, and being a retail clerk's the most common job in the economy. My friends in California are working on cars and trucks that can drive themselves, and driving a truck is the most common job in 29 states. So when you see this playing out and you see our country is confused about it, our country's blaming immigrants for something that immigrants have next to nothing to do with, and then you game out how you can get meaningful solutions across the finish line in a reasonable time frame, let's call it 5 to 10 years. And I'd run a successful national nonprofit, and I saw what we can and can't do at that scale.
When sitting down with Anthony Mason of CBS, Yang is not only asked if he thinks he can beat Trump, but also if he thinks he can beat out Biden. Little did Mason know that not only does Yang think he can beat both of them, but he has the evidence to back up his claims.
Of Trump voters, as well as independents and libertarians, and Democrats and progressives. If I'm the Democratic nominee, we win. That's the math.
But that's Joe Biden's argument, too.
Well, that's one reason why he's leading in the polls, and that's one reason you'll see me leading in the polls before too long.
You think you can beat Joe Biden?
I think I will be the nominee. If you listen to Joe talk about it, his main argument is that his election is going to be a restoration of the Obama-Biden administration, in essence, which is a move literally backwards in time. And so, to me, saying that we can somehow erase not just Donald Trump's presidency, but all of the reasons why people voted for Donald Trump, to me, is not correct. I mean, you know, these things have happened, and we're going to have to address them. We're going to have to solve the problems that got Donald Trump elected. One, if we're going to win, and two, if we're going to move the country forward.
When sitting down with CNN, Andrew Yang is asked about how $1,000 a month could possibly provide enough support for people who need it. And Yang is quick to respond. With having several years of experience helping find jobs and looking at the numbers to back his proposal, it's no surprise Yang concocted the best comeback possible to the doubt.
If you get pushed out of a job by automation, how's $12,000 a year going to change your life?
Well, I've looked at the numbers around the country, and I've spent the last 7 years helping create several thousand jobs in the Midwest and the South. And so $1,000 a month would be a game changer for tens of millions of Americans, but it would also lead to 2 million new jobs because of all the economic activity. And it would make our labor force much more dynamic, because right now a lot of Americans are stuck in place and are having a hard time moving for different opportunities.
Why does the 1% deserve $1,000 a month as does someone making $35,000 a year.
Well, if you look at our own country, Alaska has had a dividend for the last 38 years, and it's wildly popular in large part because it's universal. So it's not seen as like, oh, you get it, I don't, I'm giving it to you. Instead, it's just a right of citizenship in Alaska. And because of that, it's very popular. We should do the exact same thing in the rest of the country.
During an interview with Laura Ingraham of Fox News, Andrew Yang is asked on how $1,000 a month could possibly help the homeless. And Yang does a good job of breaking down the flaws in the past methods of the war on poverty and where it can be improved.
We've spent about $23 trillion. So didn't seem to help us, at least in the cities.
Well, the question is, where did that money go, Laura? And my plan would put economic resources directly into our hands, and it would create, again, an economic path forward for many people who right now are struggling and don't have access to, so let's say, treatment for substance abuse problems or mental health issues. Because right now we have to face facts where these problems are growing in many of our cities, and our current programs are not well designed to handle this particular problem. Because in large part, if there's someone who's lying on the street, there's not right now an economic incentive to help that person get back on their feet.
Right.
So, those were Andrew Yang's 7 best comebacks. Thank you for watching, and for more content like this, make sure you subscribe and click that bell notification.